Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Secretary, please call the roll.
Okay. Mrs. Galbraith?
Present. Here. Sorry.
Okay. Mr. Teray?
Here.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Here.
Mr. Brown? Here. And Secretary's aye, Dr. Hall.
Here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now start our public comment portion of our board meeting. First, we have Mary Ellen Brower, school board members occupying property in the district and closing the old high school.
Do you want to come up
Can you
here?
come to the microphone, please? I'm sorry.
I've lived in Crete about 33 years, paid my taxes.
I'm sorry. Let us get the Donald. We need the microphone on.
Paid my taxes. I guess my question for what the school board is proposing, are you all residents in the Crete School District, and do you pay taxes that you're proposing that we pay for future things we have to do to our schools? That's the first question. I guess my second question is, why was the old high school closed, deemed inhabitable, and then reopened after this school was built?
Okay, thank you. If you are, I'm sorry, let me just interject here. If you're unfamiliar with our public comment procedures, they're outlined on the back of your public comment form. We should have some more back there if you all need that information. So typically we do have our comments, people come and make comments, and we will get back with you with an answer. Ms. Brower, just wanted to make sure you were clear on that, and everyone else. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Jack Davis. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. No new school.
Just a minute ago, we all stood up and said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Did you guys believe those words you actually said? Think about it. You're holding a financial pistol to these people's head out here. They want to raise the taxes. There's a lot of people. I represent a pretty good-sized group of people in my community, and I've heard the same thing from them. No new taxes. We'll do what we have to stop you. I just want you to know that, okay? Now that I've got calmed down a little bit, what you're doing here, people cannot sell their houses in my community. They have to drop them $100,000 or more. Short sales, that's all we got. I had one sell for $44,000 a block from me, and it's in $250,000 homes, okay? I had mine on for sale for 2 years. I got not one bid. And when I did find out what the reason was, most of it was because the people didn't want to pay the taxes. And that's before they went up. We're tired of it. We're tired of it. I'm looking at your faces, and I'm hoping I don't see evil in them. Because Something will be done about this. This community will arise, and we will stop you somehow from pushing this through. That's what aggravates me. It was a sneak move. You tried to sneak it through, just like this building we're standing in here right now. We never voted on this either, okay? That outrages me. That's almost like the Pledge of Allegiance. Think about the words in there. You pledge allegiance for the community and all that. That's all bogus. There may be a lot of people in this community can afford higher taxes, but there's an awful lot of people who can't. We're tired of being taxed, okay? And we know that there will be some expense, whether you come up with some off-the-wall stuff. We know that there's going to be expenses made. My question is, why did you try to sneak it through? What are you trying to do? What's the master plan here? What are we really talking about here? Okay? I'd like to know where each and every one of you live. And I'd like to have your phone numbers too. But anyway, that's not my question. My question is, whoever's got guts enough to answer, what's going on here? I've talked to a lot of people. I'm one of the calm ones. Okay? This can get ugly. Okay? Now you can push it through. But I just stopped there. I just like an answer why you tried to sneak this by everybody that's sitting in this room. Why did you want to start? We're standing in a school we didn't get to vote on. So now you're doing it again. And that $34 million don't mean nothing. You all know it's going to wind up $45 million. And I want to know who the contractors are and who's picking out contractors if we do go through this. I want to know who's getting the kickbacks. I don't trust you. I don't trust this board. And I really don't trust, I don't know, if I could sell my house now and get out of here. Oh, one other thing. Chicago Tribune had an article. Will County has the biggest exodus of any county in Illinois and probably this half of the Mississippi. Why are people getting out of here? You guys are just part of it. There's other things that raise taxes, but you're the biggest part of it. How much can people bear? People have to sell their homes. They can't sell them. We're being held hostage. To sell them, we have to drop the price ungodly. And then you guys don't care because the next guy coming in, he gets a tax break for a year. And then after that, it goes right back up to where it was. So you're safe. Some fool's going to pay it all. You know. I mean, I'm sorry if I sound a little rough. I'm trying to control my anger. And it's hard for me.
Mr.
Kind of like a
Davis,
Trump.
your time is up.
But I didn't get an answer yet.
As I stated before that we do not give the answers here, you will receive an answer. Thank you. Next we have Michael Scrimenti, the new school.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jack on a lot of what he said. And I know I've been out here 10 years. I've seen my taxes go up over 60% in that time. And I've seen the value of my house go down by at least 30%. And like he said, it just gets ridiculous. You look at these tax bills and they go up and up and up. And you can't sell a house in Crete. And if your plan when you built this high school was to get people to flock in here because you got a nice building, people flock to areas where schools have a reputation for good education. And I don't know about Will County in general because everybody seems to be flocking to New Lenox and Mokina and that area. But I live in the same area where Jack does, and I've got a foreclosure to the north of me. I got abandoned houses all around me. We had foreclosures that have been bought over there. But, you know, Kohl's is the only thing that went in over on 30 in Richton. That was supposed to be an entire plaza that went in there. But nobody seems to be wanting to come in to the Crete area. Everybody's moving away from the Crete area. And if the education doesn't get better, if you don't get a reputation for having a good education, you're not going to get people to come in here. I don't have any children or grandchildren of school age. And most of the people, I see a lot of people here are elderly people. You know, there's no benefit for them. That's it. So I'm along with him. I want to see it be a referendum and not just something that you put up and go with the bond and everything. That's it.
Thank you. Randy and Marilyn Helmus. Funding of the new school.
Well, it seems to be a general consensus here that we're against the taxes and the taxes going up. And I've been involved in this too much, but it sounds like we're not going to get much of a voice when it comes to raising our taxes or keeping our taxes the same. So I'm assuming by the group here that we're against having the bond issue issued. We're asking for a referendum so that we can at least vote on this issue. And that seems to be the main concern with everybody. And that was the reason that we're here tonight. So, but I don't think name calling is a good way to do it, or making threats. I think a nice, calm and cogent comments would be the thing to do in front of the school board.
Thank you. Joel Schulte. Too many schools.
Property owner in Monee for 7 years, built a house off of Crete-Monee Road. 2 questions. Number 1, places like Lincoln Way, Governor State University is benefiting from all the taxpayers in Frankfurt for building too many schools and now having to close one, so Governor State is now renting out, or will be renting out, one of their schools. What makes this area needing more schools, not being able to get by with what we have? Okay. And then the second question, 1 new school, 1 expanded school, 1 demolition of a school, and yet no increase in taxes from 2014? Be interesting to have you explain how that works. Thank you.
Thank you. Last, we have Doris Harmon Warren. Referendum question.
Good evening. My name is Doris Harmon Warren. I was at the last Finance Committee meeting, and obviously this issue came up. The public is interested in some kind of public meetings for this, and even at the meeting there was a threat made by one of the board members that if life safety issues weren't addressed, he would sue the school and the public. I really would like to get better answers about what's going on, a timetable, the actual costs, you know, something that we can take and we can think about, and when we can decide whether we want this or not. I don't feel that's happening, and I don't like it.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment. I will encourage everyone to stay with us. We do have an administrative update coming forward that will hopefully give you some of the information that you're looking for. And again, if you have specific questions that need to be answered, we will be following up with you and answering those questions via email. If you provided your email address on these forms, if you did not, please make sure that we have that information before you leave this evening. Thank you.
Dr. Hall, would you please reiterate to the questions? Nevertheless, if one person asks the question, not just the person who asked the question will be answered. Every person will be answered in a on the internet format, so you all can see the same question asked and answered by this school district and from one voice.
It is on our website. If you go to our website and it's under the Board of Education, we do list the questions that are asked at the board meetings as well as the answers. So you will be able to get the answers to all the questions that were asked this evening if you go on our website. I believe we do have one item of good news tonight.
Yes, ma'am. The Executive Director of the Illinois Association of School Business Officials, Dr. Jacoby, would like to come and give us an award, I think, or some information and maybe a check.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be able to spend just a few minutes with you, and I thank you for this time this evening. The Illinois Association of School Business Officials is a statewide association, and folks who are committed to school business are part of our membership. And Dr. Williams has been on our board of directors, and I'm here tonight really to commend her, but also to thank you and commend you for your commitment to support her as she's served on a statewide board. That kind of commitment is not a small one, and she has done it very, very faithfully for the last 3 years. We're already at a point where we're missing her because she's finished her term, but I wanted to come this evening and say that she has served so well, and that reputation from your district has also entered into the school business profession, as she's brought her expertise, her knowledge, her capabilities to the table as we've planned and worked on making a better association for all school district members who are a part of it throughout the state. And what I know from my own experience is that when someone belongs and participates at this level, it's not just her own professional time, it's everyone's commitment to her. And so as a Board of Education and as administration, I'd like to thank you for being willing to let her serve in this capacity. She has made a considerable difference for us, and we thank you for that. And I do have a check. I'll give this to Ann. Our foundation, which is funded by individual member contributions, honors our outgoing directors with a check in the amount of $1,000 to a charity that she has so chosen. And so, Ann, if I could come over there and give this check to you, I would just consider that a great privilege. I think we have to have a picture, Ann.
Dr. Williams, did you have a response? Anything you'd like to say? Congratulations.
I don't want to start crying, so I'll just say thank you for your support as a school board and the administrative team for the time that I was out of the office last year, attending meetings and representing all school districts in the state on that board. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. Moving forward to our administrative updates, I believe we're starting with curriculum tonight. So, Laura Hirsch, THS program.
This report is on the restructuring and relocation of our transitional high school program. Currently, we have, for high school students who need to make up credits towards graduation, we have 3 options for that credit recovery. First is an after-school credit retrieval program that we do here at Crete-Monee High School, and students have to pay approximately $100 to retrieve a semester of credit. The second option that we've been offering is summer school, which again is a cost to the student. And then our third option is our transitional high school program, which has been housed at Monee Education Center. And that program in the past has been for students who transfer into our district who need to make up credits, and those students have an option to attend Monee Education Center and then to make up those credits, and then at the semester they transfer into the high school. Currently that configuration has impacted our participation rates for credit retrieval because there's a cost to students, and sometimes it's the after-school piece or it's the location where students aren't actually at the high school itself. So to address those issues, we are going to move the transitional high school program from Monee Education Center to Crete-Monee High School beginning next month. And this allows us to create a comprehensive credit retrieval program that will serve our students who are enrolled here at Crete-Monee High School as well as those that transfer into the district. We are prepared to offer three options for those students. The first one is a credit retrieval option like transitional high school, where students are in a classroom in the high school, but they also have the option while taking online courses during the day to actually be out and take elective courses, math courses, and PE courses. We also will then provide some support for them during the school day with some social academic intervention groups with our support staff. Our second option, again, is the after-school credit retrieval option, but we will be able to provide that at no cost to students. Students would then be able to take the activity bus home. And then the third option that we will have with this program is to put credit retrieval as a designated class on the student's schedule. So we embed it into the schedule. The student makes up a credit during the school day. With the classroom, we will be transferring our current THS staff, which is one full-time teacher and one full-time teacher assistant, from Monee Education Center to Crete-Monee High School. They will continue to staff the program. And the other thing that we are preparing to do is to take the teacher schedule and adjust it so that the teacher starts later in the day and works through the after-school credit retrieval time, so that that teacher then is responsible for the entire program. Our teacher assistant will work the regular school day, and this allows that person to cover the classroom. So if we have students during the regular school day who have been absent and have perhaps missed a test and need to make up a test for their regular class, we have a location that they can go and then take their makeup test. So it gives us just another option too that allows us to help all students in the building. We will be offering our social, emotional, or social academic intervention groups during the THS teacher's lunch period. So that teacher will go to lunch. We'll bring in our social worker or other staff member during that time to run our support groups for our students. And we will also then look at credits earned, the age of the student, and how many credits they need to retrieve, in addition to early identification of students in like freshman year who maybe have missed a credit right off the bat, and we can get them in and get those made up. So the high school team has worked really hard to come up with this plan. I think it offers us a lot of options for all students, and the expected impact here is that we increase our graduation rate, decrease the dropout rate, increase success for any fifth-year seniors that we have so that we get them to graduate, at the same time reduce the number of fifth-year seniors that we do have, and also to work on social and academic intervention that will decrease disciplinary referrals.
Thank you. Any comments or questions by board members?
I have a couple of questions. Surprise, right? Okay. When we put originally, this is kind of to Monica and to Laura, the students over in MEC to retrieve it, it was for the credit retrieval. It was to eliminate distractions and give them more concentrated time to study and get these credits. Is that incorrect, or is that the reason we put them there?
For the THS program, when it was originally developed, it was placed at MEC so that the students were off-site from the high school. I don't know that it was necessarily with the design in mind that they would have less distractions. It was just to have it separate from the high school because they were entering the district late. We have since seen that when they attempt to do that transition back to the high school after the semester, because it is a semester-only program, the adjustment, there are some struggles there for some of the students because they're so isolated. They then attempt to transition the second semester, and they don't have the same experiences that they did while they were in the credit retrieval program off-site.
Okay, and my second question is, how are we going to interface the athletics with the students that are in this retrieval program? Part of participating in athletics is being up to speed in your grades and your credits, right? Mm-hmm. So who is going to monitor and keep track of these students, making sure that they're up to speed and on task, and their grades are sufficient for them to participate in the athletics in high school? Have you talked about that?
Well, actually, at the back of the room, you see Dr. Harden say, me, and I think he's heading to the microphone. He'd be glad to give you additional explanation. Hi, Dr. Harden.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Teray, just a very fast answer to your question. It's twofold. Yes, those students will be allowed to participate as long as they are eligible. With athletics and considering the very nature of this program, a lot of these students are in a retrieval situation. They will not be academically eligible. Once we get them eligible and move them into the general body of students, into the general population of students, absolutely without a problem we'll get them in. But any student who is academically eligible to play, participate, and willing to participate in a club or organization, we will have opportunities for them as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure, I love athletics. My 3 sons played here in multi-sports. They went to college and played football, and thank God for my pocketbook and their ability. But, the first and foremost thing is that we got to bring them on task, and they need to be, they're up to standards in education. And
Yes,
I want to ask you and task you to make sure that they don't fall through the cracks, and that these young men and women are up to speed before we put them on the athletic teams. And
absolutely.
Okay.
We want to be able to keep our eyes and a hand on them and in their academic progress because they're students first. So we're going to make sure of that.
I agree.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. CMHS late.
I have a couple questions. How is a 5:15 end time going to affect a teacher under?
We're sorry.
So how is a 5:15 end time going to affect a teacher and with their collective bargaining agreement?
Well, currently, teachers work a 7.5-hour workday, and we're proposing to shift that so they start later in the morning, so it's still that same 7.5-hour period. And I know Mr. Neal and Mrs. Bragg have been having some meetings to discuss that. And I don't know, Mr. Neal, if you have an update or...
There's not much to update. We're just working out a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement so that we can make that happen.
Okay, and with periods 1 and 2 being for makeup testing, what happens to those students if they don't have a makeup test to do? What are they doing during that time?
Well, the students at the credit retrieval students at that time will be scheduled into PE, so they'll be out, and that will leave our teacher assistant there to handle makeup testing in a room where but those students will not be in there at that time.
So there's not going to be students just sitting in a classroom
No.
with nothing to do if they don't have a makeup test?
Correct.
Okay, and I know we talked about this at our meeting, but how does this early Tuesdays affect this program, early out Tuesdays?
Well, the programs will just run, the periods will run the same as whatever the school day is. And then...
Even the after-school part?
Yes, we still will have
Yes, that is correct.
After school. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Next item, CMHS is actually a typo. It's not late start, it's early out. think we all have been a little
Sorry.
confused with that term,
I said
but
late
it
start.
is
Early
early
out,
out.
sorry.
Early out.
Tuesdays.
Early out.
Early out Tuesdays.
I know, that's what I have in mind.
Yes. The board requested a communication plan on our early out Tuesdays. And just to kind of recap that we did bring a proposal to the board back in, I believe it was November, December of last year to pilot this last winter. And we worked to bring that back in the late winter for a proposal for this year where the board approved that we could have an early out day for the high school 1 day a week so that teachers would have collaborative time to work on instructional planning and assessment and curriculum development and data analysis, so some of that professional time so they can improve their practice, which in turn improves student achievement. So we did set aside Tuesdays for this day, and the calendar worked out quite nicely because it's every Tuesday. We're not off on Tuesdays at all, so it's every week on Tuesday. And the board requested that I bring tonight a communication plan, and Dr. Harden and Mrs. Nash and Mrs. Spence and I have been working on the communication plan for this. So basically, here's what we have planned so far. We have a flyer, which I did put some on the board table tonight, but Mrs. Nash did an excellent job of taking my boring little flyer and making it into something really nice, so I do appreciate that. But we do have a flyer. We have it at registration. Dr. Harden will be passing it out next week when we have athletic and activity practices and tryouts, so we'll be passing that out to students. And then our freshman orientation evening is August 17th, so that will also be distributed then. We are planning to put the information very soon on both the school and the district websites. Dr. Harden has a principal welcome letter that will be mailed out by the end of the week, and in addition to his letter, we will be including the flyer and also some information on our high school 6+1 strategies for math, so that will be going out to all of our families. The district color calendar, which indicates that every Tuesday is an early out day, that is currently on our website, and it will be in the student handbook that will be going home. And then we are going to put on the marquee out here, it'll run all year. Don't forget early out Tuesdays, 1:21 p.m. is dismissal time. So that's something we can put up and it can run without having to take it down, since it does happen every week. And then Dr. Harden has already scheduled that he will send a school messenger on August 17th, which is when he sends his freshman orientation message. And then our first dismissal day is the 25th, so we'll have one go out on August 24th.
Thank you very much. I will say that I know I was really pushing to make sure our parents know about this. Especially when it's such a big change, we need to make sure that our parents know about it. Also, I would like for us to notify our villages, our police departments. I know that when I'm driving down the street and if I see a young person walking, I'm wondering why they're not in school. So if we can get that message out to our local villages and our police departments to make sure that they know that they will be seeing students a little earlier on Tuesdays. But thank you for doing that. K-12 math plan. I'm sorry, did any other board members have comments? Okay, K-12 math plan.
Okay, I think I haven't done an informational report for 2 months, so I have 3 tonight, so make up for it. My last report is on the K-12 math plan, and this is a plan we've been developing over the last year and a half for our district, and part of what we've talked a lot about is that we really need to have a vertical structure around some really key important things so that as students transition from grade level to grade level and school to school, K to 12, because that's what makes us unique, that we have some things that are articulated and some strategies that are in place that people above and below each grade level know what's happening, parents know, and teachers know. So our plan consists of the following. First of all is a K-5 math fact plan, which I have attached for you. We developed this last year. While math facts have always been part of the elementary curriculum, they are a Common Core proficiency, very clearly stated in the Common Core standards. And with Bill Hanlon's help, we have articulated for our elementary teachers not only which facts, which the standards identify, which facts need to be mastered at which grade level, but which strategies to learn those facts are going to be taught at which grade level, K through 2. Then beginning in grades 3, 4, and 5, we're going to be assessing students to find out, as Mr. Hanlon says, find out which facts they do not know. It's not that they don't know their facts, but there are specific facts that students do not know. So let's isolate those facts and then come up with a plan to make sure that students know that. So we have that plan in place, and then part of what we wanted to do was to we wanted to have a message that people could latch on to that was kind of fun, something that kids could relate to, and kind of a theme for the year. So our theme this year is we're latching on to the new Star Wars movie that's coming out in December, and so our theme is May the Facts Be With You. And we have a large Darth Vader cutout statue in registration right now with a flyer about the elementary plan. And I also have a photograph of Mrs. Sanders and our superintendent standing by Darth Vader. They look great. And Darth looks good too. But that's just a way to promote a theme and get kids excited about it. And our plan is also to put these large cutout figures at our elementary schools so that when kids do demonstrate proficiency, they can have their picture taken with the figure and we can celebrate and recognize their achievement. The next piece to the plan is for grades 6 through 12, and that is really around the 6+1 strategies for success in math, and those are the strategies that Bill Hanlon has been working with our teachers on for the last 3 years. That is also attached, and we do have posters and a handout at registration, and those will be going to the schools as well, so those things will be getting out to parents. Mr. Hanlon has been very diligent in his message with our teachers, and they have been putting into practice what he has been teaching them, and we just want to make sure that it's articulated and everybody knows what is going on with that. The next piece to the plan is math professional development, and then that again is Mr. Hanlon. This year will be teaching a course for our math teachers in grades 3 through 12. Not all of, high school math teachers are masters of their content area, but in elementary school, teachers are generalists and they do not always have a strong math background. So the purpose of this course is to teach teachers more about math, especially those elementary and middle school teachers, and also to help them understand what they teach and how it connects to what's coming later, and for our upper grade teachers to teach them what they're teaching, where it comes from, so that we can link content, and so if a student is having difficulty, we know where to start to bring them forward. So I think his course will be very interesting, and we've had a lot of interest expressed in that. The next piece to the professional development is continued math instructional coaching with Mr. Hanlon. We are expanding his role down to 5th grade this year, so he'll be going to our elementary schools and working with our 5th grade teachers. His focus will be grades 3 through 5. And then the last piece to this is we are going to be building in some support for him for high school because we've lost some math teachers. We'll be hiring some new math teachers. We want to make sure that they're supported. The next piece of the plan is a classroom walkthrough tool around the 6+1 strategies. Dr. Harden and Ms. Hannigan and I have been working to create something that we can use, an electronic data collection tool, and it will allow us to go into classrooms and basically look for those 6+1 strategies. We'll have some data around that. And then the fifth piece to this is that the hard work of our teacher evaluation committee around the student growth component, we have incorporated essential math skills as one assessment out of 2 that teachers will be using for their evaluation. So for our math intervention teachers at the elementary school, one of their assessments will be around math facts. For our 6th grade teachers, they're going to focus on fractions. They've been working on fractions, and they have a lot of, they actually have a program called Fraction Nation that reinforces fractions with students, and that is an essential skill for 6th grade because if students aren't proficient with fractions by that time. When they move on to middle school, then they struggle. And then our high school teachers are going to be focusing on the 3-star questions that are on their assessments. 3-star questions are questions that do not require computation. They're basically essential skills or formulas that students must know in order to be successful on the rest of the tests. So we've managed to bring those essential skills into our teacher evaluation model. We will continue with our parent nights at each school with Mr. Hanlon. And then we will be putting out all of our documents around the 6+1 strategies and the elementary math fact plan. Like I said, we have things here at registration. We'll be adding information to the websites, making sure that we have things that are visible in all of the schools. I will be asking our principals to put things in newsletters. Teachers, especially at grades 6 through 12, they did this last year, they had a letter that went out to parents at the beginning of the year. We're asking them to discuss the grade appropriate plan at their parent conferences, and then included in their syllabus, and at the high school it should be on their Moodle pages. So that is how the math fact plan will be communicated.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
This framework has a lot of necessary components, and I believe it was thoroughly thought out, and it meets a lot of the needs that we have. But I would like to also ask, I know we're doing math parent nights at school, but are there any types of initiatives to do some strategies at home? When we have these math parent nights at the schools, are we giving parents tools to then take home to work with their child at home with these excuse me, these changes? I know that, we do have the new learning standards. We have the Common Core standards. The kids test for kindergarten, that's based off of these standards? Or they're
incorporated. Some of them are incorporated. It's more of a data collection piece test than a test. You're collecting data on assessments that you're using and reporting them in the kids tool.
Okay. So I'd just like to suggest possibly coming up with some activities or some strategies that parents can use at home.
Sure.
I know a lot of families are downloading math apps. Our students are using a lot of technology. We're bringing a lot of technology into our buildings. So they're at home and they're on their iPads and cell phones. Why not, be on a math app? So if we have any information on those, as well as other possible, I see you have websites under here. So getting our parents just a list of tools, a list of resources in which they can help their children at home.
Okay.
Laura, I have a question. The Common Core mostly is geared towards student growth and it's kind of state-driven per se. No Child Left Behind kind of faded away in 2014, more federal-driven mandate. So I just heard the other day just little tips and pieces of it about the No Child Left Behind Act being resurrected in some capacity. So have you heard anything on that at all?
Are we
putting a lot of energy?
The federal government has been working on what they're now calling the Every Child Achieves Act.
Okay.
It'll have a new acronym. And right now, based on what I read last, is that there's a version of the new legislation in the Senate and a version in the House, and now they're going to get together and wheel and deal and negotiate on what's going to appear in the final piece of legislation.
Would that possibly affect the way we are trying to do business? Or should we just stay the course?
It could. There's a lot of discussion right now over assessments, reducing assessments, and accountability, and whether we need, a high level of accountability, or whether testing should not take such a prominent role in accountability. And there, whenever that piece of legislation is finalized, then the impact it will have will be felt at the state level, and then the state will respond down to the districts, and then we will go forward with whatever the new law says.
Okay, could you keep the board abreast
Sure.
on just where we are with the federal portion of education? Okay.
Sure
I
thing.
believe the Senate's version passed the Senate. I believe their version passed.
I think they passed their own, and now they have to.
One part of that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think was to initiate funding for charter schools. I believe it's a part of the bill, and we know how our governor feels about charter schools as well. And there's been the issue with the Charter School Commission, and it's a lot of talk about charter schools as well. So that is something to keep an eye on. I know as local boards now retain control on whether a charter school can come into a district. The Charter School Commission was created to kind of be that in-between, but now it's gone back to the local board. So that's a piece just to let everybody know that even on the federal level, they're looking at funding charter schools.
Laura, go ahead. Okay, so my question is more to the local piece with Mr. Hanlon. It seems like there's a lot of emphasis with regard to his role in this plan. So I'm curious to know, besides him, because are we relying heavily on his process? I want to know is there something team handling? Because it's troubled me for some time, again, his ability to reach the masses, and we have a tremendous deficit in math, and from my personal opinion, as well as obvious, not necessarily enough interventions to bridge this gap. So tell me, and I hear you saying that the teachers will have this professional development, which I know they've had professional development from him before. We discussed the idea that we have to get everybody on board with this process, or his process, if you will. So I obviously want to know, have we determined through data where this has shown tremendous success so that we continue in this path? I was listening to Dr. Hall speak of the items or resources that might go home to parents. So I've been in many of his workshops, and he certainly suggests his website, and he gives out little handouts at the workshop. But I'm troubled because we still have, how many days a week or a month do we have him? Do we have something like, or could we possibly enact Bill Hanlon when he's not, or 101 when he's not here? Because we need to get more bang for our buck where this particular person, or one person, I can't imagine just one person being able to implement and make sure that all of these things are infused and is a success. So do you have any data with his tenure that shows that we have made great strides with the success ratio that he suggests?
Well, I think, and we had this discussion earlier in the year at our Ed Committee meeting, I think the high school has had him the longest. And part of what, Bill he's a master teacher, and he knows his content. And I don't believe that we have any math teacher in this district that knows math content like he does. But part of the issue that we had is the fidelity of implementation, or the consistency of implementation, which this math walkthrough tool is a data collection piece for us. And that is what we plan to use to collect the data on the fidelity of implementation with these strategies. So as far as data right now, I know when Mr. Hanlon, the first year that he was working here, our DF rate in high school math courses dropped significantly. And then over the last couple of years, it's crept back up. And to me, that's an implementation, could be an implementation issue. It's something certainly to keep an eye on and collect data, which is why we've developed this, this data collection piece. The thing about bringing him down to grade 5 is that if students, what I like about his system is it's simple, it makes sense, and if we can get it down to grade 5, now we've touched elementary, middle, and high school, so that as students move through our system, there are expectations. So the students know what to expect. They know what their tests will look like. They know what their instruction will look like. They learn how to take notes. It creates a system for them to move through, as opposed to going from teacher to teacher and having each teacher doing something different. It's a structure. As far as professional development outside of Bill Hanlon, we have done professional development, other math professional development, especially at the elementary level. We've sent teachers out to be trained on guided math. We've done a train-the-trainer model. Those teachers have come back and trained our elementary teachers on that. Our math intervention teachers that we now have at 2 schools are doing professional development in their buildings, and they've started doing some outreach to the other elementary schools. So I wouldn't say that Mr. Hanlon is the only math professional development that we're doing, but he provides us with a structure I think will help make our students successful, because we can do it in a vertical way.
Okay, you know, I'm not, all I'm going to say to you where that's concerned, if we provide a structure and they go out and get professional development from other entities, but the structure is set in place the way he presents it. So that's apparently our motto or our mode. We want people to utilize that foundation for their resources. But and then I heard you maybe answer the question with regard to now with the guided walkthroughs, you're going to have, now that'll allow you to have rather maybe more data that shows, because how long has he's been here 2, 3 years? 3 years?
He's been here 3 at the high school. He's done about 1.5 years at the 6-8 level.
Okay. So again, and I'm kind of asking almost the same questions I asked him in our education meeting, and I still want us to get to those answers because it looks like we're putting a lot into this process, and we don't know, and we're getting further and further in the needs category. I heard you say that the grades have gone down or had gone down substantially, but again, without data, we don't have any proof that it was as a result of Mr. Hanlon's expertise, and I happen to like Mr. Hanlon, so whether he's out and wherever listening, I mean, I appreciate him. I've told him that, but I'm talking about the best bang for this math buck, and just hoping that we would have other resources in addition to him, and that you guys are at least looking into that, because we've tried this, and if you can't necessarily, with the math walkthroughs, create the measure of fidelity that is required, we're still not going to get what we are paying for. And it's like I've been saying all along, we can have a lot of programs and implement and utilize consultants, but if we don't expedite what they're teaching, it serves us no purpose.
Right. And what I will say about what he does, because professional development it's a very large, all-encompassing term. Typically, we think of professional development that a person goes to a 1-day workshop or a 2-day workshop or a conference of some kind. They pick up 2 or 3 pieces of information, a couple of strategies, and they come back and they use it in their classroom. But the research on professional development shows that that is really just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there are the outside conferences that people go to, but for teachers, what's most important to anything that you learn at a workshop and anything related to professional development is job-embedded professional development. And what that means is that I'm able to take my learning and apply it in my classroom right then and there. So I'm kind of learning on the job. The research, if you look at it, it says if you go to a workshop and you pick up a couple of pieces of information, a couple of strategies, and you come back to your classroom. If you do not have support to implement that, only 10% of people will ever use anything they got at a workshop, which is why people like Mr. Hanlon, who is basically serving as a math coach for us, we have literacy coaches in all of our elementary schools. They're doing job-embedded professional development for our teachers. So, I'm able to apply things with my students on the spot, with my PD person right there giving me support and feedback. And that's really what the role that he's fulfilling for us is. He's going in and he's working with those teachers, with their students, right there on the job. Which is why his help is it's successful. That model is successful. In terms of what he is bringing to us, he's really bringing strategies. I wouldn't call it necessarily like a program that you would go by, but all of his strategies are very much built around common sense, and they're pretty simple to implement if you really just plan it out well. I mean, the idea that, I want to tell students how to take notes. I want to model that. I want to tell them what to write down, what the format should be, or that I'm going to start my lesson every day with a quick 2 or 3 minute review of what we did the day before. I mean, that's a pretty common sense type of strategy as opposed to a huge canned program of some kind. So that's what I think he brings, and he's able to model it for teachers right there in their classroom.
No,
Go
ahead. I'm sorry. All right. I got a couple quick questions. When we talked with Bill, he talked a lot about getting back to the basics, drill, drill, drill. Is this encompassed in here, to keep, we had a talk about the 1950s when I went to school, and, about drill and drill and drill and drill. And Bill said we needed to get more drill and more drill in, and I'm not seeing that here. And second part of this is the special needs kids. We have about 800 special needs kids. How do they mold into this process? And are they going to be taught the same way, or how are we going to modify it, or is things going to stay the same for the special needs kids?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, the new Illinois Learning Standards, which are what Illinois now calls the Common Core standards, are based on, there are proficiencies within the math standards, and there are expectations for every grade level. So for instance, kindergarten, the expectation is that students master their math facts to 5, addition and subtraction. First grade, it's to 10. Second grade, it's to 20. Third grade, it's multiplication and division facts, and then after that point, they're expected to master those. And then there are certain other proficiencies related to computational skills that are built into the standards. The standards, if you do not have those basic proficiencies, kind of the back to basics, which is what Bill does say, you can't, you have difficulty doing application if you don't understand your basic fluencies and your procedures. And so the Common Core itself is really based around those 3 things. I have to have my facts, I have to have my basics, I have to understand how to do procedures, math procedures, but I also have to understand where those procedures come from. And I think, when we were in school, I was in the 60s, I know I'm dating myself, but we learned the invert and multiply formula, and everybody can recite that, but we can't tell why we do it. And part of the Common Core is understanding the why behind where those formulas and those algorithms come from. So the Common Core is taking it a little bit deeper. This plan around the facts is basically that getting back to basics. Students have to know their facts. And we want to make sure that they do know their facts. But in doing this, with small children, you have to teach them the understanding behind the facts before they can develop and memorize those facts. So you have to teach them with manipulatives, You have to teach them being able to draw pictures and represent those facts, and then finally getting them to understand when they just see that math fact, 2 + 3, how to do that and how to do it fluently and automatically. So it's a process, and that's why the strategies are in there, because you teach students to do that through strategies. Our special needs students are going to be learning through this same process, but their special education teachers, their role is to make modifications and adaptations to fit the needs of those students, because that's what they're there to do. So they will learn the same, they still have to learn math facts. They may get some modifications and adaptations that will allow them to do math facts a different way, because that's what their special needs require, but they're still accountable to the same proficiencies and the same standards.
Okay, and how many days a year are we going to have, Bill? What are we contracted for, and what's it going to cost us when he's here more days? Or is it set up, or how's the contract?
Well, I haven't drafted the contract. Bill will be back in August, and then we'll have his contract done. He comes a week a month, and except he's not here in December, and he is not here in June, like May, June. So he was here, the last week he was here was like about the last week of April. So he comes about 10 weeks a year, 9, 10 weeks.
Okay. You'll have that for us next month?
I should have it next month, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Moving on.
I just have one quick.
Go ahead.
And I think Board Member Sanders may have alluded on this issue somewhat when it comes to intervention. So we had last year a report on the status of our students as it relates to their grades, specifically math and I believe English as well. And we had the first semester status report. So I would just like to see an earlier status report so we can ensure ourselves that we have the proper intervention often.
So by earlier, you mean?
I'm not sure the frequency, but I just can't see waiting a whole semester to find out that 25 to 40% of the students are subpar, being a C or less, or Fs and Ds. It's just too hard to recover, in my opinion. So I would think, you guys are the professionals, you're the teachers, that you know when a kid is struggling early, first week of school, second week of school, and I think we need to put the proper intervention in. I think we need to start the school year, and I think I'll throw this on our superintendent and let it filter down to his administrative team, that we have to promote math as top on the agenda. You know, seeing those grades is just unacceptable that we continue down that path. So we have to promote it early and get the parents buy-in. I like the strategies that you have here, Laura, but we can strategize to death if we're not monitoring, measuring, and ensuring that these young kids are getting what they need.
I agree. Dr. Harden, our principals, we've looked very hard at bringing pieces together to make sure that we are checking on our students more often, that not only we're checking on the students and monitoring them, we're also monitoring, as Laura was alluding to, by walking around and through the classrooms to make sure that this handling math stuff is being done with fidelity. We're going to not only make sure it's done with fidelity, we're going to take data on it with fidelity. We're going to watch our kids. We're going to make sure our teachers are going through this, and then we're going to see how well we do. And if it's not going well, we'll look for the next strategy to help improve it. You know, we're not going to let our kids fail. That's our focus. They're going to be successful because we're here to support them. Agreed.
Just one final note, at least in regard to the dates that Bill isn't here. You said May, June, and December, which, am I right? And so I just want to clarify, because I know we have finals, and I'm hoping that obviously the work that's been done during the course of the year will mitigate his absence. But when you do strategize or whatever supplements you guys are looking into, and even down to Mr. Brown's point, the progress reports, we need to be mindful that those are critical time frames that we have no, we don't have anything in place. And I know years ago we had something, I can't remember the specifics, but something that was enacted briefly to help facilitate success during and around finals and things, because we're dealing with, of course, like you mentioned earlier, seniors who are fifth year, and they're depending upon some math class, and not just math, but classes in general, but we're on math. I don't think we can go 3 months out of the year, so if Bill isn't here during those periods, what is being done during those periods, because those particular months appear to be some of our more crisis type months. Would you?
Well, he's basically working with teachers, and so when he's not here, and I have his dates. He and I sat down and we sketched out the dates, so I can put the dates in the FYI for next week so that you have them. He's here late November, and he comes back in January. And I think more what you're asking for is what are we doing to support students during finals during that time with our teachers and our interventions, and what can we provide those students to make sure that they're successful toward the end of each semester, after kind of the work has been done during the semester, because that's when Bill is not here as we approach finals for both semesters is basically what it is. But that's certainly a conversation I can have with him, and I know Dr. Harden, in fact, we had a conversation today a little bit about final exams, so we'll certainly talk more about supports that we can put in place. I know several years ago we actually set up for our freshmen some support right before finals to teach them how to study for final exams, in their first year at the high school. So I think that's something we can also revisit.
Okay.
Before we move forward, I just want to let the board know that I did request from Ms. Hirsch that we be given regular updates on our local assessments, our district assessments. We do test our students on the district level. I know we have step tests and study island, and we get our NWEA results and all of that, and I think it's important for us to also be seeing that information. I think that because of No Child Left Behind, our country has become so focused on standardized tests, PARCC assessment, ISAT, and we look at that as the only tool to measure how successful our students are, but in reality there's varying ways to look at that success, and I believe even the Every Child Achieves Act touches on that as well, with giving authority to states and school districts to look at data to measure success for students, not just the reported standardized tests. So just wanted to give the board a heads up on that. I believe we're discussing that at the next education committee meeting.
I think we should look at when we test, and then if we can set up a cycle of reporting so that it goes to the ed committee, and then the following board meeting we do it here, instead of just we used to just do it one time and do the academic report, and it was a lot of information. I think if we can be more strategic and set up a cycle of reporting, then we'll have ongoing data reports related to our district assessments. I think that'd be
And it's
great.
good for our public to know too, because a lot of times, they just hear about the standardized test, and they publish these scores, and then we take these percentages and we run with it, and we say this, and that, but there's a bigger picture to educating students. So I think it's very important to look at multiple assessments to determine if our students are being successful.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Student Affairs, for your report, Ms. Bench.
Good evening. The following Freedom of Information requests have been received, and I have posted the results and status of those requests. We have 4 this evening. The first one comes to us from Tammy Beville, an electronic request received on June 19th, 2015. The request is for the custodial supply bid results number 15-004 with a close date of May 1st, 2015. The status and electronic response was sent on June 25th. There were no documents responsive to this request. Number 2 comes to us from Thomas Tomaszewski of My Disposal. The electronic request was received on July 1st. The request is for a copy of Republic's submission to the original request that was rejected. The status of that request and electronic response was sent on July 7th, 2015. This request was denied. Number 3, also from Thomas Tomaszewski of My Disposal, electronic request received on July 6, 2015. The request is for a copy of the Republic's bid submission for last year, 2014. The status an electronic response was sent on July 7, 2015. The response included the requested documents. Our last request comes to us again from Tammy Beville. Electronic request received on June 25th. The request is for the bid packets for all bids and a listing of who was present, staff, and bidders at the bid opening for this custodial supply bid number 15-004 with the close date of May 1st, 2015. The status of this request, a response was sent via U.S. mail on June 26, 2015, and the response included the requested documents. This concludes the Freedom of Information request received for the month of July.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll have our business updates. Dr. Williams, the middle school edition.
Good evening. I'm pleased to report that the middle school addition project is coming along well. We've completed the design phases of the project. The architects are working on the construction documents, and we are set to seek bids and recommend awarded bids in late September and early October. I think it's worth noting that the administration and the Finance Committee are working diligently to keep the cost associated with this project in line with the original projections, as well as to keep the cost for the International Baccalaureate Programming implementation to a minimum. I'd be happy to address any questions from the board regarding this at this time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All righty, financing the facilities master plan.
Yes, financing the facilities master plan. In an effort to ensure that the community has a clear understanding of the facilities master plan and the funding associated with the first phases of the plan, I'd like to take a few moments to review the facts as they stand today. Community input was received on the plan prior to the arrival of the current administration. As you may recall, the Board of Education approved a facility master plan that addresses the district's long-term facility needs. During the October 2014 board meeting, the plan was approved unanimously by the Board of Education with the 6-0 vote. The board-approved plan will provide the following benefits to all of our communities. It will create an enhanced, more efficient learning environment for all students. It will provide enhanced educational opportunities by creating a middle school international baccalaureate program and by providing technology upgrades in all of our elementary school buildings. It will reduce the number of educational transitions for all students, which research shows has had a positive impact on student learning outcomes. The plan will also create operational efficiencies to help stabilize the district's financial condition. Lastly, the plan will eliminate the need to spend more than $30 million in repairs to the 3 aging buildings in question. Phases of the plan. The Facility Master Plan is a 10-year plan. Funding for the first 5 years of the plan is as follows. The middle school addition, which is currently underway, will be financed by existing funds received several years ago as partial reimbursement for the new high school. The new elementary school, along with technology and infrastructure upgrades for Monee, Talala, and CSK Magnet School, will be financed with a new bond issue estimated at $34 million. Several financing plans are being examined to fund this portion of the plan. The district's independent bond consultant, the finance committee, and the district administrative team are examining all of the options. Several options were discussed at a recent finance committee meeting. The district will continue to assess the optimal financing plan for this portion of the facility master plan by working closely with the new district architect on the project cost and assessing the qualified school construction bond program, which could potentially provide significant savings to the district and its taxpayers. Additional information will be provided at the next Finance Committee meeting. There was also a handout passed out earlier this evening, and the information in the handout will be placed on our website for everyone to view. The financial impact, the last piece, is the financial impact to taxpayers. First of all, the financial plan will actually lower the annual bond fund levy over the next 8 years. The levy, as it stands today, is scheduled to increase 6% annually over the next 8 years. The plan stabilizes that through the life of the new bond issue. This means that our taxpayers will not see increased taxes associated with this plan in the next 8 years or even in the next 20 years. I'd be happy to address any questions from the board regarding this report at this time.
Yeah, I got a couple questions, just clarification. I want the audience to know. This plan that we're talking about, although it smooths out the taxes to the level that it is now, it gives us an extra 10 years of tax liability. Is that correct? For a total of 20, where we could possibly be out of debt in another 9?
It does extend the debt obligation over a longer period, yes.
Okay, and it's going to cost the taxpayers $34 million approximately over the next 20 years, correct?
There's a bond issue, a planned bond issue estimated at $34 million.
Okay, and what is the interest on this?
We have not finalized any plan, so I can't give you an interest rate as it stands right now. We're looking at all of the options to determine which option is in the best interest of the district and its taxpayers.
So at this point, we just talking, we don't have a plan, you're looking at things to do, but we're paying the architects when we don't have a concrete plan. Help me understand that.
We are looking at different financing options for that portion of the plan.
Okay,
we want to ensure that we have the best option available at the time.
Okay, so
But
how does I know we're paying the architects for the middle school, correct?
Yes.
And that money's coming out of the funds we got from the high school. I understand that. That's money that's already in the bank, and we're going to pay them to put the addition on the middle school and close the 6th grade center and consolidate all the kids, 6th graders, into the middle school. I understand that one. Okay, so the architects are working on that. We're paying them for that.
Yes.
For the additional part of the plan, seeing we don't have a financing thing in place, are we incurring any debt to the architectural firm that we currently have at this point in time before we have a financing plan in place? Are we paying them to do anything with that?
We're in the initial stages of design for the new elementary school. And as it relates to a plan, we have a plan to issue bonds estimated at $34 million. What type of bonds is what is not yet finalized.
Okay, and if we do this, or when we do it, there will still be the option for the public to come up with 7.5% of registered voters to say, don't do this?
If that is a requirement of the process, most certainly,
Okay, but we don't know the process yet.
because we don't know what type of bonds we're issuing yet.
Okay. Do all bonds, all types require the input of the public? Do they have an opportunity, in other words, to say, I don't want this tax, I don't want to pay for this? Does a petition apply to all types of bonds or just certain types?
Well, the Board of Education employed the services of an independent bond consultant that could probably speak more intelligently to all of the different types of bonds. But what I can tell you is that we will provide information as we receive it regarding all of the options that are being considered.
Okay. And I guess my final thing is then that the original projection, with today being the date to announce it, tomorrow being the date where the petition could be started, et cetera, that's all on hold at this point in time until we know where we're going, correct?
That was one option that was discussed at the finance meeting. We're still looking at all of our options.
Okay. Well, that was put forth as the plan at the time because we were all given a sheet and this is how it's going to happen. And through January, I didn't get the impression that was one of the options. I got the impression this is the way we're going to go.
Well,
but we're not going that way now, right?
That's not what I said, sir. Dr. Grossi reviewed several plans at the Finance Committee, one of which was qualified school construction bonds. That was discussed at length. So there was more than one plan discussed at that meeting, and as it stands right now, we're still considering all of the options associated with all of the plans.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For clarification, on a follow-up discussion we had on last month, the bottom line, because I think at issue is, and has been spoken consistently, this backdoor referendum discussion. At the end of the day, it's a terminology that is used widely. It's state, did I understand that correctly? State widely used referendum. We didn't make it up as a board. So, as I stated last month, taxpayers continue to have a voice and a right to have the opportunity to voice their concerns prior to any final decisions. If they decide that they don't want us selling the bonds, they have, 7.5, what's the percentage of, it doesn't matter. There's a certain percentage that would allow taxpayers at large to say, still at any point in time, that we don't want this. Am I correct?
There is a certain percentage for the type of bonds that they were considering.
Okay. The second thing is, I'm just trying to get clarity because I think I heard somebody say it earlier. In the previous, because I know it didn't take place while we sat on this board, there was this process that took place, and I'm not sure if you have the history on it, but the fact that this building was built via referendum, but citizens or taxpayers chose not to pay for the financing or the upkeep of the building. Am I understanding? The operational referendum. So I don't think any of us want to be in that situation again, nor does anyone anticipate doing something that would not allow. It's a democratic process to be able to have the opportunity to say yay or nay in any process. So I'm just trying to get clarity on where this arbitrary information that suggests that we're doing something without the public having the opportunity. The opportunity exists. It's now whether or not taxpayers decide that they want to go ahead with the petitions. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Hello?
What was your
The question I
here?
ask is simply that taxpayers still have the opportunity, whether it's back door, front door, whatever it is, that's and I'm serious, I'm not trying to be flippant, but there's still an opportunity exists. Am I correct?
It all depends, Kim. And, you know, the law say there's certain bonds we can sell, and this is how we can present these bonds to the public. Some bonds we sell has to go straight for referendum. Some bonds we sell, if we so choose, there's a petition period, working cash, things of this nature, leasing, funding bonds, so on and so forth. They call it a backdoor referendum. There's nothing illegal, but it gives a petition period for the voters to say, you know what, we want this to go to referendum. And then there's certain bonds, and they, for reasons that the law and the legislative body chose to make these certain bonds that no, we do not, as a board, have to allow these bonds a petition period or a referendum. And it's for reasons, for good reasons too. So there's like 3 methods of selling bonds.
But each one of the methods that the Finance Committee is considering to make a recommendation to the Board of Education will have input from the public. We are not closing out the public. I mean, this was an opportunity. Next month will be an opportunity. The Finance Committee will be an opportunity. And according on what bonds we decide to go, there will be opportunities for input from our public. I think it's very important that we understand we are listening to the public because they are giving us input. And that's what we're after. We're not surprised by input.
And again, you know, nobody wants to, I mean, you can tell a lot of the public or whatever, we are going to sell bonds and it's going to cause your taxes to go up. Just the fact that they hear the word taxes go up, they not knowing anything else, they would say no, 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 no. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. I don't want to say the majority, I don't want to speak for people, but that's kind of the nature. So the law puts things in place for certain bonds to be sold this way, and that way. You know, we are the Board of Education. We have to oversee the whole district, the business, and so on and so forth. So, you know, just given that the legislative body in Springfield and throughout the country say these bonds, you can sell it this way for these issues. You got life safety issues. You got these issues, and this is the way you can sell these bonds. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say, you know, we heard public comment tonight. I'm sure we'll get more input from the public. As board members, we are charged to make the best decision for our children. Our mission statement reads, to ensure that every child is challenged to reach his or her full potential, academically, socially, and emotionally, as they grow and develop into thoughtful, productive, and contributing members of society. I read that to say that the choices that we make, we're talking about building a new school, and we didn't just wake up one day and say, let's build a new school. This has been ongoing conversation. This school that we have been talking about has been in the works for years, prior to me even being on the board, with prior boards and prior committees doing research, stating that our students will need the space. Education is changing every day. Our children need technology. They need improved buildings. They need all of the resources that we can give them in order for them to have the best educational experiences. So I just wanted to make that clear. This is about the children. We have to constantly remember that this is about our kids, and what we put into them today will determine the types of citizens that they are tomorrow. So I just wanted to make sure that it is communicated that we are focusing on what is best for our children. And we do understand that some of the decisions that the school board makes will ultimately impact our taxpayers in one way or another, but that is what this decision has been based upon, what's best for our kids, or why it's in front of everyone today.
You know, I just want to just add one more comment. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, August of 2014, it was presented to the board. We had an opportunity to sell our last $15 million in working cash, which the board had already approved to sell $30 million, in which the board sold $15 million prior to me coming on the board. And it was a 4-3 vote to not sell those working cash, which was brought about because of a backdoor referendum. And I said, the reasons, let's see where we are. Let's not sell $15 million. Let's look where we are. Let's get our master plan in place. Let's get the public input. And then once we know where we are, what we have, and then we can see how we're going to allocate the resources and the funds and then take it from there. So if we would have sold $15 million in 2014, in September 2014, which was the deadline, that we approved not to sell it in August of 2014, I wonder where would we be now? We'll be talking a whole different game.
Okay.
Hey.
I got one last comment. Yeah, we're here for the kids, and I agree with that statement that the children are important. They are the future of America, as cliche as that sounds. But I also am here for the community, and I was elected by the voters. I'm going to be your voice.
We all are here for the community.
I will do my best for you, and I will ensure that we have a community to send children to. If we keep doing this, spending money and raising taxes, we're not going to have anybody living here. That's a problem. So that's my personal opinion on it.
And I like to say we were all elected by community members that felt that we best represented what's important to them. We represent the entire community, and again, we're doing what's best for our children, and that's what is expected from the public.
And, just personally, the last thing I would want to see is my taxes go up. I think I pay about $11,000 a year, and I'm sure some of us pay more. That's the last thing I would want to see. That's why, being on this board for the last 4 years, anything that came my way that says we're going to raise taxes, I put the brakes on. Not if I had anything to do with it. But when you take yourself out of the equation and see what's best for the community, you have a different thought process. And I will absorb costs on the behalf of the district personally to have a better school district, to have a better learning process if I have to spend more money personally.
And I'll probably just say finally, with response to, I think I heard someone say it in the audience, I'm sure, and it's been consistently stated, two things. You must live in this district to be on this board. That's number one. So we definitely live in and are amongst the taxpayers in this community. So your taxes are my taxes. I have to pay the same taxes as any other person. Yes, I do have children in this school, but I'm no less considerate of that fact. I think it's what Mr. Brown just stated. You don't get to come here in this seat and sit and decide individually how you feel about whether we should or shouldn't. I think that I certainly know that I've been an advocate for consistently saying, how do we get even public A? And I think that's part of what I'm hearing lately is people who do not have children in this school district who are enrolled. As Mr. Teray often says, we all live around. I think it's 4 houses on my block that are people have gotten up and walked away. And not only have they walked away, but they've walked away from being neighbors. I moved to this community because I wanted a neighborhood for my 3 children and have been here for many years for that very purpose. So it saddens me that people are leaving this community. I personally don't plan to. I'm vested. If I have to pay some taxes, I'm going to pay the taxes because quite frankly, I think if I move anywhere else, I'm going to have to pay for what we need to have to make the community a better place. And I hear often, how do we get people to come to an area? I'm not going to say, because I'm not big on, we have a beautiful school. I didn't think that this big, beautiful building is so substantial. It's what is inside of this building. What are the students learning inside of this building is more critical. So I'm sure back in the day I voted to make sure if we're all going for it, let's go ahead and have a building. The promise was we're going to make sure that students will achieve. You've heard us here tonight, and even if you haven't heard us before personally, that's been our goal from day one. This isn't a show, this is reality. And reality is, this is a public office, it's a public situation, so there's no hiding anything. It's been everywhere, what it is that we've attempted to do and are attempting to do for the benefit, and I'm a little different. I don't think it's for our kids only, it's for our community. If we have helpless children in our community who are not educated, they're going to rob our communities. They're going to do a lot of things because they have no jobs and they're not educated. So I think we all have to take a vested interest in the education and even the educational institutions around us. We can't have dilapidated buildings. It was the community, if my memory serves me, because I wondered the same thing somebody asked earlier, the 6th grade center. We had people coming to us out of the woodwork saying, oh, this building was filled with asbestos, and we remember it had asbestos. Now, as a parent, I'm very aggravated to think that I had children to attend this high school that was never told to me that it had asbestos, because I assure you, no child that I have would have been in that school. But somehow that wasn't the case. The kids could come back into the school, but that's not on our watch. And we don't even get to say, as a current board, we didn't know about it. We're here today doing the best we can to mitigate what we do going forward. And if there is asbestos or anything in there that would hurt any student, we certainly want to move away from that process as quickly as possible so that our kids, people's grandchildren and so on are not hurt by this process. So again, and I've said it before, I'm just even looking at my notes, bottom line, I hope the community does file the petitions and the necessary. People have a right for a voice. That I've done it. I've been on a petition to have my say. So I'm not against it. I encourage it. The fact that it's thought that we want somehow to stop a community from having a say, the first gentleman who spoke, it's okay to be angry about wanting something or your voice to be heard. I've been there, always wanting my voice to be heard. So I do support the United States of America, and I do honor that flag, and that's exactly what that flag means, freedom. That's what it means to me.
Okay, and I just real quick, just want to just add this too. As a board member, and every board member has the right to vote their conscience, to change their mind. But when we talk about issues like this, and I spoke a little bit on this at our last meeting, we're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars. And when we vacillate, when we waver on decisions like this, one month we like this, the next month we're like that, I think that does nothing good to the community. So if we can be somehow just concrete with our decisions after learning as much as possible the process, I think that adds value to the district as well.
Okay, thank you. Moving forward, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Oh, I'm sorry. Skip right over. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Preliminary budget.
Did we get you all?
Included in your packet is a preliminary budget for the 2015-16 school year. The budget is extremely preliminary at this point. There are several factors in the budgeting process that are unknown, including state revenue and actually some of the revenue for the prior year that we still haven't received. I'd be happy to provide additional details. Detailed budget will be provided at the August Finance Committee meeting. We should know more about state funding and our year-end expenditures at that point. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay, any questions from board members? Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Gasparo,
Second.
second by Mrs. Galbraith. Any questions? Secretary, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, just a correction on the Personnel Committee minutes. Page, look like, let's see, that 20, is that 25?
Would we need
The
to add
28.
Ms. Gasparo on there?
Yeah, it looks like,
We need to add that Mrs. Gasparo was in attendance of the Personnel Committee minutes. Terry.
see that she voted a couple of, board member Gasparo voted a couple times, but I don't see her present.
Yes.
Okay.
Where are you at?
Okay.
It looked like page, that's 25.
25.
Page 25. We'll get that changed.
In
Thank
the
you.
roll call, but with that correction.
Okay. With the change to the Personnel Committee minutes as outlined, Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Teray?
I'm going to vote nay.
Okay. Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Ms. Galbraith?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Secretary's aye. Dr. Hall?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have our business action reports. Dr. Williams. Medicaid billing vendor.
Yes. Included in your packet is a recommendation to approve the agreement with R&G to provide our Medicaid service, our Medicaid billing service for the 2015-16 school year. I worked closely with our new special ed director on researching possible third-party billers. We did receive proposals from 3, and the one that we are recommending today provided the lowest cost proposal. Ms. Bellotti has worked with them and is very familiar with them, and she can vouch for their exceptional level of service and the fact that they do seek out certain reimbursement areas that other providers may not necessarily look into. So we are recommending that the Board of Education approve the agreement as submitted, and it was reviewed by the Finance Committee as well.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the Medicaid billing vendor as outlined?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Teray,
Second.
second by Mrs. Galbraith. Any comments or questions from board members? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
And Mr. Teray?
Aye.
Secretary's aye. And Dr. Hall?
Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
Fuel purchasing intergovernmental agreement.
Yes, included in your packet is a draft intergovernmental agreement that was created by the district's attorney, Hauser Izzo. It is the recommendation of the Finance Committee that the Board of Education approve that intergovernmental agreement for fuel purchases as presented.
Can you,
Let me get a motion. Sorry.
oh, okay.
May I have a motion to approve the fuel purchasing intergovernmental agreement as outlined?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Brown,
Second.
second by Mrs. Gasparo. Any comments or questions by board members?
I have a question. Did the town of Crete agree to everything here? Are
I'm
we all on the
sorry.
same page with Crete on this intergovernment agreement? Has it been signed off by Crete?
Not to my knowledge, sir. We were bringing it to the board prior to having discussions with Crete. I did provide the village president with a copy of the draft last week.
Okay.
Last week?
Any feedback or
No, I have not received feedback to date.
no changes at this point?
Not
Okay.
to date. I have not received any.
So
All right, thank you.
Okay, so the process is for the entire board or the board to approve the draft. And then do we bring it back to the finance committee if there's no changes from the input from the village president of Crete? Do we bring it back to the finance committee, or do we bring it back to the board to say, okay, can this draft be considered a full-blown agreement?
My intent was to have the board sign off on it, tentatively provide that copy to the village president so that he can take it to his board and have them sign it,
He has
if there aren't any issues.
I thought he had a copy of it.
He does have a copy of it. I don't know that he had that copy prior to
So
his
you want
last
to
board
take
meeting.
him,
though.
you want to take the village president a signed copy, draft copy from the board for him to sign? I'm a little confused on that. Okay, ultimately, we want a final copy. We want input from the village of Crete.
Okay.
Okay, we basically said on our end, as it is right now, pending at least from the finance committee, to bring it to the full board, to get the board approval tonight, it would be considered still a draft, but however, it can also be considered a final intergovernment agreement, pending no issues with Crete.
That is correct.
And it stops right there. The buck stops right there. That's what I'm doing.
Yes.
Okay, it's not coming back this way.
Sorry.
Okay.
Well, then my question
That's why we call it in a draft.
do we need to sign off on it if there's potentially changes that may occur?
Well, at this point, you would be signing off on the draft. If there are changes, then those changes would come back to the finance committee for discussion.
And then we need to reapprove?
I
If
think
there's
so.
changes, yes, ma'am.
I think so.
Why all the steps? What's
Yeah.
the purpose? You take it,
understand.
share with them, our attorneys have reviewed it, and you take it to them, they share with, I'm sure they're consulting their attorneys, and their attorneys and them have come to a conclusion, and then we have two, like they're saying, input. So why would we sign initially until they have had the opportunity to have feedback? Well, why are we spinning the wheel?
I guess maybe, going back to the finance committee meeting, we did want the board to look at this, the full board, before we considered a final document to come to the board. I think we needed the full board input on the process. And I think that's kind of what we're doing here as a draft. I know it's an extra step, but I think it's just the nature of the beast, so to speak.
I think it
We
would
need
have
the
been
full
better
bo-
to make this informational if that was the intent
Okay.
of bringing it to the board to get input. It just doesn't make sense to me to sign off on it and it may have changes. So
I don't think it's a problem if we sign off on it knowing what we're signing off. We're signing off
But
on
we
the
don't.
draft. We're signing off on the draft.
The next time you're going to know
It's
is
gonna
at
be-
the finance meeting,
Yes,
to be
then it
brought
comes
back
to the board
full
Saying
to
that-
be
saying this is-
voted on again.
as a final document.
That doesn't make sense.
Okay.
If
In
you'd
my
like,
opinion.
we can wait until we receive feedback one way or
can
another
take it
from
off.
the
It's
village
either
and bring
or.
it back to the finance committee next month.
I would go for that.
Yeah.
It's either or.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather
I
do
mean, it's
that.
either or.
So maybe we do need a motion to take this.
We wanted the
Okay.
board input on
Rescind
this.
the motion.
So
So you,
what we
and
want.
more importantly, you want board input.
We want,
on it.
yeah,
Okay.
we did not want to recommend
Gotcha.
to bring to the full board a final document when we did not have a final document, because it's okay, it was okay from the finance point of view, committee point of view, but we had not received any input from the village of Crete.
Okay, so with the next finance committee, can we have any updates from the village of Crete? Can you seek those?
We should.
And we can
get them on.
discuss?
Yeah.
We
at
can
the-
talk
at-
about it, we can
Okay.
iron it out, and,
Okay.
couple with the village of Crete input with what we have, and then we can fine tune it and bring it to the committee.
Okay.
I
Now,
was
the
just
only- now,
assuming that
here's
they
the
had
only-
given input already, that's all.
No.
Here's the only caveat on this process. Now we get the village of Crete input, and we recommend from the Finance Committee that it's okay, good to go, bring it to the board. What if the full board does not agree with it? Okay.
It's just a
So
business decision
can't
as usual.
approve anything that's not
I know, but
approved by,
okay. So,
quorum.
okay, did everybody have a chance to look at it? No, I would say so. Do you guys have any
draft?
problems with it?
I
So
don't
we're
know
not
if we're hearing
approving.
from any of our other board members have any issues with the intergovernmental agreement as it stands.
So we want every board member input on it. If they don't have any, that's fine. But that was the purpose of bringing it to the full board.
Gotcha.
You know, maybe
For
we missed-
input.
For input, I
Okay,
guess.
gotcha.
Can we?
Okay, so can I have a motion to rescind the motion?
I'll motion to rescind it.
Moved by Mr. Teray. I have a second.
Moved.
Give me a second.
1 second, sorry. It's late, I was all day.
Second by Mrs. Gasparo. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Okay, thank you. The motion is rescinded.
And again, you know, just for a sense of urgency, this is, we gotta have a sense of urgency on this as well. Oh, first week of August. So we need a sense of urgency on this.
August 5th.
Because
Well,
there's
a
lot
good
of moving
suggestion
parts on
is if
that.
there's any input or feedback or any changes proposed,
Yeah.
that to forward it to all of us,
Yes.
perhaps, for our
Just
review.
any
and
input
we're prepared.
regarding
I
this.
will get that out in an FYI,
Yeah.
ma'am, to make sure
Please,
that everybody
just get it.
sees it, just like I sent this one,
Yeah.
just in
Because
case.
we have some pending issues out there, and we need to move forward with this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, custodial supplies bid.
Yes, included in your packet is a recommendation for custodial supplies, which we bid on an annual basis based on our inventory and our needs for, our anticipated needs for the new year. A public bid opening was held on July 9th as required by law. 9 companies submitted bids and a summary of the bid results is attached. I think it's worth noting that this year we did request alternative bids rather than requiring specific brands to see if we could possibly provide some savings as it relates to that. And several of the recommendations are actually for alternatives. I worked closely with Mr. Bohm to ensure that the alternatives were of like kind and quality to what we've used in the past. So I am requesting that the board award the custodial supply bids by item to the lowest responsible bidder as defined in the attached FY16 custodial supply bid summary with the following modification to the bid total for North American, the total being $6,749.60.
So move. Or do you put the motion out there?
Can I have a motion to approve the bid for custodial supplies as outlined in the bid summary?
With the modification.
And with the change to North American in the amount of $6,749.60.
The second will be deleted. Just
And-
one
okay,
North
so-
American.
Okay. So, may I have a motion to approve the bid for custodial supplies as listed in the bid summary with the following changes of, first, reference to North American in the amount of $6,749.60, as well as removing the second appearance of North American. Are we clear? Everybody clear? A motion, please.
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Teray.
Oh, you changed.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Gasparo. Any questions?
I know we have been doing business like this when it comes to custodial supplies. We have 5, 6, 7 vendors bidding on the lowest responsible bidder has been awarded the contract. I'm just moving forward. I wonder, do we have an opportunity to bundle this and redo our specs to have somewhat of a package deal out there? Because
Well, we always have the option to award on an item-by-item basis or
Yes.
as a bundle. Typically, if you award on an item-by-item basis, you're able to save money.
Okay, that might be the answer, but you understand where I'm coming from? You have
It is more
very
time-consuming
minute
and it's more to
supplies.
manage.
These are not real big-ticket items. Well, we do have a $28,000 bid here, but with 5, 6 vendors. So we'll talk about that. Just see. I like to, just because we have been doing it a certain way doesn't always make it the best way.
Okay.
Here's an opportunity to at least revisit it and see what we can do.
No problem.
And we always want to look at ways to save money. So if it ends up that this is the best way for us
And so be it.
to get these, then yeah. But I agree if we can look at the possibility of getting one vendor or two.
These are custodian supplies. I would think one vendor could provide us with all of the service
And
necessary.
we may get discounts because we
Yeah,
are
and we
doing
can go
multiple.
to that and use that as a bargaining tool. But we'll see.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Mr. Toure?
Aye.
Secretary's aye, and Dr. Hall.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, the garbage disposal services bid.
A public bid opening was held on July 9th for garbage disposal services. 2 companies responded to that request. The incumbent, Republic, was found to be the lowest responsible bidder. The Illinois School Code allows the negotiation of rates with the proposed winner after the bids have been publicly opened and analyzed to determine who the lowest responsible bidder is. Based on my analysis, I am requesting that the board approve the bid as submitted, approve the bid by Republic pending successful negotiations on the rates for the 2015-16 year. I did have some concerns regarding the increases for several locations. The increases were in excess of 20%. With no changes to the actual number of pickups, so I am in contact with them. We've had one conference call, and I am waiting for the sales manager to return on Friday so that we can finalize any changes that would be necessary to the prices. The Illinois School Code allows us to negotiate the rates, but it does not allow us to negotiate the scope after the bid has been awarded. So it is my I'm sorry?
Negotiate the what?
Rates, but not the scope.
I can negotiate the rates after the bids have been opened, but I can't change how many pickups they're going to have or the size of the containers. I can't change any of that at this point. So it is my recommendation that the Board of Education award the bid pending successful negotiations.
And I know we've had them. How do you perceive these negotiations to go? Do you?
I haven't spoken with the sales manager as of yet. I did express my concerns regarding the increases, and the individuals that I spoke with really weren't able to address it. So at this point, I'm just waiting to hear back from the sales manager.
And as far as quality issues, I don't know of any recorded or documented issues with this company.
I have not received any complaints on any issues, and I did work with Mr. Bohm regarding the number of pickups to ensure that we do have the space to reduce the number of pickups, because we did reduce pickups at 8 of our, well, we have 11 locations where we pick up because we also pick up at the maintenance building, but we did reduce the number of pickups. For example, Balmoral School had pickups every day. We're going down to 2 days a week based on the need in an effort to save money. So I don't believe that Mr. Bohm had any concerns as it relates to the service provided by Republic.
Okay.
Dr.
May I have
Williams? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
I have one question. The timeline for the decision?
Ms. Galbraith, did I put the motion?
April.
I'm sorry.
that's a typo.
I'm all out of turn. Sorry.
That's a typo because it was rejected.
And I'm
then it
asking
came
a
out to
question.
bid again.
My apologies to the board. May I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 16 to 50, fiscal year 18 garbage disposal service bid as outlined, pending the successful negotiations on the rates for the 2015-18 school years. A motion? Is there a motion?
Can you read motion again?
I have a motion to award, I'm going to read it as it's on here, award the bid for garbage disposal services to Republic, the lowest responsible bidder, pending successful negotiations on rates for the 2015-18 school years.
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Mr. Teray,
Second.
second by Mrs. Galbraith. I'm sorry, Ms. Galbraith had some questions or comments.
Yes, the timeline for decision says April.
Yes, that was a typo. It's for today.
Should have said July
Yes.
21st, not April 21st.
I have a question. Does the responsible bidder, Republic, do they have permission to go into all of our communities?
They are the incumbent, so they were already servicing all of our communities. Yes.
And I guess my question is, you're going to go and negotiate with them. What if you don't get anywhere with negotiations? What's plan B?
We will come back to the Finance Committee and have a discussion.
And in the interim, who's going to pick up the garbage?
We are currently operating under the terms of the old contract.
With Republic?
Yes.
Okay. And will you give us his when will you give us his feedback? FYI or what?
As soon as I have it, I do anticipate speaking with them on Friday, so I would anticipate having an update for you in the next FYI.
'Cause I'm just worried that they're looking at us as having deep pockets, That bothers me. 20% increases.
Everybody knows.
Fuel went down, it didn't go up,
Labor went up.
So, anyway, okay.
Okay, Secretary, please go.
I've got some concerns here. Dr. Williams, where are we as far as the village of Crete basically have an ordinance out there that states that Republic, the company that we are looking to approve, is the single source for picking up garbage or waste in the village of Crete, as well as University Park supposedly have an ordinance out there saying that Republic can only be used in the village. So where are we with that?
Well, because we are a governmental entity, we are required to comply with the Illinois School Code, which may be very different from what they are required to comply with. I have been working with President Einhorn, and the plan in the event that the lowest responsible bidder was not Republic would be to go to one of their board meetings and actually present information as it relates to that.
So-
Their ordinance is for residential and commercial businesses within the village.
Okay, so that ordinance at this moment did not play any role in bringing Republic to us.
No,
What was
sir.
what was the previous
Republic
contract?
was the
But how
incumbent.
long? They are the present vendor. How long was it?
They were previously, we've done it on an annual basis, so they've done it, I believe, for the last 2 years at least.
And now we're looking 3 years in. For what reason now? For 3 years?
Well, to encourage competition, a multi-year contract was in our best interest.
And prior to that, Republic was kind of scratched because we was going down the road. Did we always look for 3 years or 1 year?
No, prior to this year, we did 1 year.
Okay.
At least for the last
No.
2 years, we did 1 year.
Dr. Williams, would you explain to the board why you went the 3 years? I know we talked about this earlier, but just give them the big picture as quickly as you can.
Okay. When vendors are looking at these contracts, they're looking at the initial setup cost to purchase the dumpsters and bring them into all of our locations. So in order for them to make a profit, a multi-year contract is more beneficial.
So, with all that being said, Republic, with the one-year contract, they pretty much outbidded everyone because they had their foot in the door. Is that correct? For the
No
most
one
part.
else submitted bids in the prior year.
Because of that reason, Republic was already here. But now we gave an opportunity for other vendors to bid because of the 3 years, and Republic still came in as the lowest bidder. I mean, I think that's a good thing. Republic was going to have an advantage if we continue to go down the road to propose a one-year contract. They would have had the advantage. They
That is
had
correct.
in the past.
That is correct.
Okay, so to give other companies an opportunity, a fair shake at this process, we went with the 3 years. That'll give us a best, probably the best deal. And Republic still came in, for what I see here, as the lowest responsible bidder.
Of the 2 bidders that submitted, yes, they did.
That was Homewood. I don't have the page up.
Yes.
Okay.
Homewood Disposal.
Okay.
And I did ask Dr. Williams a couple questions about this. And to my understanding, most districts do multi-year contracts with disposal companies. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
That is my understanding.
do we put ourselves in a situation of increasing costs if we do it annually?
You put yourself at risk to have a higher increase if you're not locked into a certain amount, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Teray?
Aye.
And Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Nay.
And the Secretary is aye. Dr. Hall?
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Any old business? New business?
I got some old business. I'm trying to find it here. We were talking about athletic director, hiring athletic director. Is that on the consent agenda here? Is that on it?
That'll be under new business.
Did I miss it here?
All
Sorry, I
hirings-
had to run to the washroom.
All hirings are on the personnel report. I believe you were here for that vote.
I'm trying to find his name.
It was on the consent agenda.
Consent agenda.
It's on the consent, Mike.
Is he on here?
Report.
Well,
What's the?
But don't
what's
worry,
your
you
question?
voted.
I don't know what he's. is he
You
asking?
voted nay, Mike.
the question I had was,
He's
we
with the
talked
ages.
about, I just want to make it clear, we talked about hiring an athletic director,
Here, it's on page 26.
but there was issues with certification between states. The individual came from Indiana's coming from Indiana, and I would like to get an update and let the public know that we can't bring the person on board until everything is kosher between the states. Can you please explain that to the public, Mr. Cunningham?
Mr. Neal, would you go ahead and go over where we
Somebody.
are, the state?
Yes, actually, what the issue was that after the new licensing rules were passed in 2012, or were passed effective 2012, to change the licensing requirements for principals in the state of Illinois, basically what happened was any mechanism for an out-of-state candidate for administration to become licensed in Illinois was removed. And they have since acted to replace that on an annual basis, but now those have expired, and it got caught up, the renewal of it got caught up in the politics between the governor and the legislature. At this time, my understanding is, and I just looked on the General Assembly page, that on July 16th, the governor signed the bill approving the process. So now all we're waiting for is the word from the ROE regarding what steps have to be taken for him to be licensed. He's met all the necessary requirements. We just need to have the ROE and the State Board of Ed provide the mechanism for him to actually receive his license. And we expect that shortly. I'm supposed to hear from the ROE later this week.
Okay. So at this point, is he tentatively hired, or are we going to actually vote on this gentleman?
Well, at this point, the board has, because they approved the consent agenda, he is employed. That employment is contingent in his contract to his being licensed in the state. So if he does not become licensed and there is a point where the board decides to rescind that, they would have every right to do so.
And that is in all administrative contracts.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure everybody was clear on that, and I was, because, you know, we're hiring somebody, but we can't put them to work because of some political maneuvering going on between the states, correct?
And
Well,
I
the political
encourage
maneuvering is over with at this point. We're just waiting for the rules.
And I encourage everyone to contact your legislators and share your concerns with some of the things that are coming out of this whole budget crisis. I did speak with one of my legislators and shared with her this issue, because if we're holding up, we're reaching impasse and all, you know, whatever is going on. A lot of things on local levels are being affected by that. So if we cannot put people in place because of whatever's going on in Springfield, I think our legislators need to know that as well. Thank you. All right. He said old business, but we were on new business.
That was old business. I'm sorry.
New business. My apologies. I think I skipped board updates. So if anyone has a... Oh, you have a...
It's for me.
Go ahead. Did you say new business?
Well, I don't know. You guys can decide. I'm just wanting to bring to you guys' attention the care or lack thereof of the maintenance around these buildings. I visited the schools this week, and they look not good. And I'm probably not even being nice. Deplorable is the word I really want to use. We're going to greet people on August, the second week in August. I know that at the last finance meeting, we had a lengthy discussion on lawn maintenance, the requirement for more people. What are we doing? It's not good. It doesn't look good. I read somewhere that we had somebody independently come out and look into it and try to help the process. It's embarrassing from the street, from every point. And, you know, again, I remember years ago, Dr. Rogers was talking about the amount of money that's spent on the facade and the edifices around here. At least we could do is to maintain what we have. At the high school, there's literally a tree that was a weed, and it's grown. I mean, we're not maintaining, and I'm wondering, we employ people to do jobs, and are they getting done? And or if they're not, I suggest you guys take a clear look at what's happening in and around our buildings quickly, especially before school starts. I don't know why anyone would want to come. Again, you got to be outside first, get in, and believe that there's something positive and good going on in the inside.
I concur. I think we've all communicated. I don't know why this is not being handled. Even the back entrance to this high school, the walkway up to the door is full of cut grass, piles on the walkway. Doesn't make sense. Grass on the tracks at the high school. We have community members that use the track. Cannot use those. Garbage that's not being dumped. We have brought our concerns. I continue to get contacted by our community asking what is going on. This is our maintenance department or whoever, buildings and grounds, that are responsible for this, and something needs to be done about it. And I believe many board members have been contacted by the public. I think Mr. Brown was out there one day pulling weed whacking or whatever, but you know, that's not in our description as responsibilities of board members. But you know, it's not a laughing matter. Something needs to be done about it, and it needs to be done yesterday.
We will have a report to you in your next FYI, where we've been, what we've done, and what we're doing.
Mr.
If there are
Cunningham,
questions
with
or
all
any-
due respect, I don't really want to report.
You're going to get a
I
report
just
because
want it
y'all
done.
need, we're going to get it done, but you need to know about it too.
Please.
Okay.
It needs to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
And again,
And
you
I'm
know,
not saying you all haven't made efforts, because I know you have, but I don't know what the issue is.
Here's what I heard. It's nice that you guys made efforts. I want it done. And I heard it not just from the president, I heard it from the entire board.
and again, Superintendent, if need be, at my expense, I'll bring some teenagers out here if need be. If we don't have
We
the
pay people.
resources to make it happen. you
We'll
know.
make it happen.
Not
We
in,
pay
not in
people to do
August,
that.
late August, not in October.
There's a liability issue with that. I don't
Yes.
know if we can bring teenagers out here to do work. How do they get here? Who's responsible for them? What happens if they get hurt?
And
know
it's
we
a
have
liability
community-
with what
we have
we're looking
community
at.
volunteers. We have community.
Employees, we have employees.
But
We
I'm
will
just
get it
saying,
handled with
whatever
our
it takes,
employees.
that's in my opinion, a relatively simple task.
Thank you.
Grass cutting, weed whacking, trimming the hedges. Again, for security purposes, we have hedges that's growing, overgrowth, past windows where people can sneak in. I think we had a busted window at, I believe, Talala a month or so ago.
Graffiti.
It's graffiti and a busted window. So we need to make a quick assessment. We shouldn't have to continue to repeat ourselves on this issue.
Okay.
I'm not a real angry guy, but I'm getting angry at this.
Understand.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Hold on.
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Teray,
Second.
second by Mrs. Galbraith. All those in favor say aye.
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 Move my
All those
Mr.
opposed say nay.
Second.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.